I love you.
I love you too. Oh, no, don't do that.
You said you love me, though.
As a friend, you're my best friend.
Right, so about 2 years ago, I made a video on the shambles that was My Mum Tracy Beakers. In said video, I discussed my problems with the show, such as the pacing, writing, and characters. Although I disliked the show overall, I found solace in the fact that it's short and I could at least get some ironic enjoyment out of it.
Stop calling me!
Then, a couple months later, CBBC announced there'd be a continuation of the show, and a couple weeks after that announced a season 2, making 17 new episodes total.
Is this some kind of twisted joke?
So did the Beaker Girls improve on My Mum Tracy Beakers' problems, or is it just as much of a silly mess? Let's finally go over it all in this video. A quick heads up before we begin, this script ended up being way longer than I planned. So I'll be going over season 1 in this video and season 2 in a separate video coming very soon. But that's enough rambling. Let's talk about the Beaker Girls season 1. Season 1 of the Beaker Girls is actually not bad. At a stretch, I'd even say I enjoyed it. Unironically. I know, it's a real shocker. This season is far from perfect and still has some issues that crop up to keep it from greatness in my eyes. But compared to what we received previously, I'd say this is a vast improvement. This season follows Jess and Tracy, our favourite calm and reasonable people, as they move to Cooksey. They are living comfortable lives working and living in the antique shop until a runaway care kid named Jordan starts getting involved with Jess. So this leads to Jess and Tracy having to figure out how best to help Jordan while dealing with other stuff. Our first topic of discussion has to do with one of my biggest issues with the previous show, being one of my biggest complaints about My Mum Tracy Beakers was that the pacing was absolutely atrocious. Everything moves way too fast. By the end of the first episode,
Sean Godfrey
proposes to Tracy. In the second episode, 5 minutes after Jess starts to gain some respect for Sean, we get the twist that he's having an affair. And if Tracy didn't find out the truth, we would have got the wedding like 5 minutes into episode 3.
Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, press brake, slow down, man.
With a longer runtime, we could have fleshed out this plot a lot more and it would have been much better for it. The Beaker Girls has 5 episodes to play around with and greatly benefit from it, because I can't imagine how insane it would have been to try and cram all this stuff into 3 episodes again. With this longer runtime, we can spend more time trying to understand Jordan and her struggles. We can dedicate an entire episode to Jess's dad trying to re-enter her life and how everyone feels about it. And we can spend more time with Sean Godfrey! Yeah! All jokes aside, the pacing is pretty good this time around. I have 0 complaints there. But while it's true the pacing is great, it's time to discuss something I'm much more mixed on.
You're not exactly dad material.
If it's my kid, I'm there for him.
If.
I want to test.
Sean.
The characters in this season range from pretty good to the blue people in Danganronpa. So let's go over the key people this season, slowly rising in importance.
Hurt her again and I will hunt you down.
Oh, shiver my timbers. Shut up.
Speaking of blue Danganronpa people, we got Patience. Now to be fair, she gets way better in season 2 when the writers actually give her stuff to do. But as for right now, she simply does not have much screen time, which is understandable. She could have ended up taking precious time to focus on more important stuff, and like I said, she does improve in season 2.
Oh, I probably wouldn't look in there.
Mrs. Cook is Jess's form tutor, and honestly, is really funny. Her first scene is one of the most stupid ones and had me fearing for the rest of the show, but she managed to actually be quite entertaining. Her sarcasm when Jess and Patience are telling their life stories is insanely accurate to how some teachers choose to be for no reason.
We are honoured to have you in our humble classroom.
Nobody likes sarcasm. Do you understand?
The actress playing Mrs. Cook also just delivers some of these lines really well.
Everyone, it's only a wasp.
We also got Flo, who I have absolutely nothing to say about. But that's not a bad thing. She's almost like Jess's auntie in this show and serves her role just fine. She's alright. Tyrone is back from the last show and somehow has even less to do than he did in that show. Off the top of my head, I remember him tackling Jordan over 2 pieces of chicken, trying to kiss Jess, which admittedly was pretty funny, and like, he dresses up as an elf or something, I don't know. He talks to Jess about wanting to get fostered by
Sean Godfrey.
But this is only brought up 2 times in this whole show. Once in episode 2 when he gets the idea, and then again in episode 5 when he realizes the idea won't work out.
Tyrone, did you really think he might foster you?
Alright, shut up. Settle.
Stupid. So stupid.
By the time they bring up this plot again, I had already forgotten about it because Tyrone is never in this show. But at least he gets this nice little moment where he settles for being a cousin.
We need more people like Tracy.
To round off the supporting cast of note, we have Peter, who gets the most screen time out of any of the people I've talked about so far. He was in the story of Tracy Beaker and is now the head teacher of Jess's school. He acts as the voice of reason as Tracy does her usual Tracy antics of trying to raise Jordan without telling social services or her mum or anyone really. I actually enjoyed Peter in the first season. He can be a little cringe sometimes, but it's more endearing than anything. I like that even though Tracy is doing some silly stuff, he doesn't get social services involved and tries to convince her that she needs to handle the situation with much more importance.
Somebody has to think about practicalities. Can you afford to feed an extra person? What if she gets ill? What about school?
School?
She's a young person. She needs an education, a future.
For season 1, Peter, I don't have much complaints. He does good. That's about all I have for the less integral roles this season. So now let's move on to the major players.
I know.
Simon Sai Rajani Martin is Jess's dad. He gets like one mention in My Mum Tracy Beaker. At least I think he does. I'm not going to go back and check. So that led me to wonder what kind of person he was and why he wasn't around. Turns out he's just a big cornball.
Right, what are we doing first?
To me, Simon feels like one of the more real characters in this show. He reappears at the end of episode 3, but has been calling Tracy throughout the show up until this point, trying to meet up with Jess. We then get an entire episode of him trying to reconnect with her and trying to show that he does care. He honestly does seem genuine, but I fully understand why Tracy doesn't see that. This is a woman who was constantly let down by her mother, which ended up leaving her with a fear of abandonment. So after Simon pulls the same rubbish on her, I don't blame her for not wanting to let him back into her and Jess's life. Especially when he says stuff like this.
We don't need you.
Jess said that someone's gone missing, a friend.
That is none of your business.
Tracy's my daughter's life. You chose!
And that's exactly why I like Tracy much more in this season compared to the last show. Instead of her performing overly cartoony acts of rage and shock, she gets upset in a realistic way. It seems like a true return to form to her character in Tracy Beaker Returns. As I mentioned earlier, she's handling the Jordan situation in a bad way, but she means well and has good intentions. That's who Tracy is. She sometimes does stuff wrong, but for a good reason. She even takes the time to reflect on her arguments she has with Jess and takes time to understand why those arguments happen in the first place. Even if sometimes she's a bit too apologetic, but we'll get to that later. But going back to Simon Sai Rajani Martin, I really appreciate that they didn't go down the route where he only cares about Jess for a little bit and then pulls the same disappearing act he did when she wasn't even old enough to remember his face. He's changed since then, and yeah, what he did was deplorable, but he really does care and wants to make an effort to be in his daughter's life. So yeah, Simon is an interesting addition to the cast, and Tracy has undergone a lot of improvement since her previous appearance, which is demonstrated amazingly with her interactions with...
Justine, I thought we agreed it's over.
Yeah, you always say it's over, then you always come crawling back.
Not this time. Not after this. I'm deleting you.
You're not deleting me. I'm blocking you.
Do it.
Justine's character assassination was arguably My Mum Tracy Beakers' biggest atrocity. The affair plotline was so out of nowhere and made no sense for her at all. This is another level of betrayal towards Tracy that Justine would have never performed before this. So when she reappeared and vandalized Sean's car, I was so worried that they would continue her downward spiral. But to my surprise, she is really good in this show. Justine also has barely any screen time in this show, but the scenes she is in are some of the best the show has to offer. Justine and Tracy having a heart-to-heart after Justine trashes Sean's car is great, and probably my favourite scene in the show. It was honestly really nice to see Tracy recognise something has clearly happened for Justine to behave this way, so she simply pulls her inside so they can talk it out. Montana Thompson and Danny Harmer give great performances here, especially after Justine mentions her dad has dementia. We then don't see Justine again till episode 5, where it's revealed that she's pregnant with Sean's child. That, coupled with her dad's dementia and eventual passing, really puts into perspective why she acted the way she did in the last show. She's the one who ends up bringing everyone together for the ending as well, when she goes into labour in the beach house. So even with her limited screen time, she still contributes heavily to the plot, unlike others. It was great to see the Beaker Girls fix Justine after she took quite a deep fall after My Mum Tracy Beaker. But Justine never would have been found without two people I have very mixed feelings on.
Take back what you said.
Or what? Come on, let's have it.
You're back!
Jordan is our most important new character. If she is annoying or boring or badly written, this whole show falls apart. So I'm happy to say she's actually pretty good. Jordan has run away from care and has been sleeping rough and stealing food to survive, before Tracy learns all this and decides to take her in. To be honest, I think this show would have greatly benefited from giving us more details about Jordan's life in care. When police are called after she steals Tracy's money and runs away, we find out this isn't a one-off and she has a history of behaviour like this.
Did you know she'd been in trouble before? What sort of trouble? Shoplifting? Vandalism? Nothing gang-related. But she does have form for running away from care.
Presenting us with a flashback or even just one scene of Jordan explaining a bit more about her life in care would have really helped in understanding how she thinks. But instead, we get scenes of Jordan bursting out into song which I couldn't take seriously.
I was lost till you saved me. I'll never forget.
This song is...
Jordan is one of many cases in Tracy Beaker of a child who's been failed by the care system. Based on what we're shown, Jordan has an extreme fear of being taken away and put in a secure home for things like stealing and vandalism. In her head, she's already too far gone and can't be helped. The actress playing Jordan does a great job expressing this fear. I especially like when she's looking around for places to escape while Tracy tries to calm her down. Tracy understands the situation Jordan is in, so she makes an attempt to help her through it, even if Jordan's constant fumbles get in the way of that help. I also really like that Justine going into labour is what made Jordan give up on running away, so she could give Justine the help she desperately needed. Their conversation when Jess leaves is great, and shows Jordan that no matter how her life has gone up to this point, she can always bounce back, and even be in a family. So yeah, aside from some goofy stuff here and there, Jordan was one of the best parts of watching this season. But now we have to talk about arguably the most 50-50 character in Tracy Beaker. Jess in My Mum Tracy Beakers is a tad bit annoying. I do sympathise with her struggles in that show, but sometimes it's really hard when half of her screen time consists of this.
What are you playing?
It's not a game. Stupid Sean Godfrey. I like my old stuff. I don't need Sean Godfrey's money. Stupid Sean Godfrey. My mum believes in herself and she doesn't need anybody else to do it for her.
What a cool character.
It's not very easy to find opinions on Tracy Beaker nowadays, but I remember a lot of people complaining about Jess when the show first came out. So like Justine, this show is Jess's chance to redeem herself and become a tad bit less annoying. So how was she this time around?
You are not inviting Justine Littlewood to our Christmas.
Well, let's talk about it. For the most part, I think Jess is much better. This season she has quite a few things to deal with. Jordan, she's starting secondary school, her dad coming back. This is a lot of stuff. We get to see how Jess reacts to and handles all these situations. And honestly, I think it's done pretty well. She's like 11 years old, so her messy way of dealing with some of these things makes sense and is pretty believable. Jess is also much less annoying this time around. The times she gets angry or upset are mostly justified. She discusses the situation with her dad in a mature way, and she really does try to help Jordan. She's even nice to Sean Godfrey. Sometimes.
She won't take you back, you know.
You really think that's why I'm here?
No, don't care.
Now, if you think back to like 2 minutes ago, you'll remember that I said Jess is mostly justified when she gets angry or upset. The times she gets angry or upset are mostly justified. See, I said it right there. I phrased it this way because of the absolutely ridiculous argument Jess and Tracy have in episode 4 that almost made me regret starting to like Jess's character. So, for some context, Simon Sai Rajani Martin asks Jess to stay with his family over the holiday, which she agrees to, but she starts to regret the decision when she hears how depressed her mum was when her dad left. So she changes her mind and doesn't go with him. Then, in the next episode, Justine's dad dies, so Tracy offers to let her stay with them for Christmas. And Jess blows up at this information. She ain't having it at all.
No, you are not inviting Justine Littlewood to our Christmas.
I honestly hate this so much. I understand Jess is upset because Tracy didn't ask her first. That is fair enough. But Jess has been extremely understanding and caring this whole season. But now when Justine's dad dies, she has no remorse. She tries to make Tracy feel guilty as well, since she's the reason Jess didn't go with her dad. But no one asked you to do that. You chose! Honestly, if there was a scene or something where Jess apologizes for this disgusting behavior, I wouldn't be this mad. But this apology never comes. Tracy comes in after and gives Jess her permission, again, to spend Christmas at her dad's. Then Jess offers Tracy to come with her and complains when she says no. Was you not listening when Cam told you how badly he hurt your mum? Of course she doesn't want to go round that house.
And at first, your mum was very sad.
Like after Sean Godfrey?
Worse than that.
They almost made it. I was almost able to say I really like Jess this season, but that whole argument ruined it. She is much better than she was in My Mum Tracy Beakers, but still nowhere near the greats Tracy Beaker has to offer. I am happy to say that a majority of the characters this season are genuinely pretty good, a sentiment which cannot be shared by My Mum Tracy Beaker. Yes, there are a few hiccups here and there, but there is some good here, which is exactly how I feel about the show as a whole. Altogether, season 1 of the Beaker Girls is a much needed improvement on what My Mum Tracy Beaker had to offer. The show gives itself 5 episodes to tell a much more compelling story with better written characters and appropriate pacing. While the characters can be hit or miss, and there can be some cringe moments, this show does a great job at ending off the My Mum Tracy Beaker saga on a wholesome note. I am very happy that I can finally put this saga of Tracy Beaker behind me and move on to new, better things. Then everything changed when season 2 attacked.